and well met is a greeting you're not likely to find in Down Below, but I'm going to use it anyway. I'm Steve.
I'm Ian.
And we are here to talk about story aspects in our Down Below setting. Ian has been on a kick about needs, and we're going to go on some more about that.
So today we're going to talk about something a little bit higher on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the need for something more than subsistence. So if you've heard of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which is not entirely adhered to even nowadays in psychology, but it provides a good basis to talk about this. You've probably heard of the concept that people have certain basic needs like food, shelter, and other needs such as companionship that go a little bit beyond the actually keeps your body and soul together needs. And we're talking more about those ones that go a little bit beyond just feeding your physical body and sheltering it from the elements.
To recap in very briefly, the important thing is that while your characters might actually not benefit from the basic subsistence programs that most governments have in place, the story generally does not benefit from, yet again, you scrounging through dumpsters for food. So it's easy to make assumptions and say that the basic needs, however uncomfortably, have been met. So we're looking at some higher needs to motivate people.
So for people who do benefit from a citizenship, there are needs that on a large scale don't get met in this setting. If we take a look at the northern Western countries, what are today the NATO countries, which are still in the setting that we are positing allied, and in fact a little bit more closely economically tied.
It's a situation of A, if it ain't broke, you don't need to break it, and B, they were threatened, not directly, but still threatened by Eastern and Southeastern expansion.
So we take a look at this North Atlantic Economic Alliance, and we see that in this setting, all of these countries have agreed to certain basic human rights standards, and this includes a basic stipend of currency that all citizens of any of these countries receive, which has been calculated to put all of those people an acceptable margin above the poverty line, and that is adjusted year by year.
Bullet point, what an acceptable margin and what poverty line is does vary from country to country, as does the exact exchange rate of whatever credit system they're using to basic needs. That's a discussion for a later time, but it does bear mentioning right now.
The short version, though, is that everybody eats, everybody has a place to live, and everybody has basic medical care provided for. This is in many ways an improvement over the modern day, and this is one of the main reasons why to the average citizen, especially of these developed countries, the world looks pretty much like a utopia. And there are very similar things in many other parts of the world, but we're going to focus on this example for now so that we don't get bogged down in complexities. In these countries, the average citizen does not live very far above the subsistence line that they are guaranteed. One of the things that makes the setting actually a dystopia where we can have these interesting characters with unmet needs to focus on is that people in general actually tend to have this falling towards that subsistence line, where there are some elite wealthy people gravitating most of the wealth to themselves. Most of the people gravitate towards the less savings, just getting by on the subsistence level.
For example, Beth has just recently graduated from college. In college, she had a job where she worked 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, because it fit within her school schedule. During this time, her schooling was paid for by a combination of her parents and the state. The state paid for most of her food. The job was mostly there to cover extra expenses because most of her stipend was being absorbed by her schooling at this point. Once she gets out to school, her stipend is no longer being absorbed. She finds a place with 2 other people of like mind, moves in, and realizes that she doesn't have to work more than 2 hours a day, 4 days a week, and now has all this free time. Why would she ever want to do more?
And the average person like Beth may change to a job that actually uses the training that they've just completed from their schooling, but they don't actually tend to be employed more fully than that. And this creates a growing, underutilized workforce in these nations.
Physical labor tasks do still tend to be more closer to the traditional work-hour week, because when you're in a physical labor task, you work until the job is done for the day, because there's always need for it. However, the percentage of people employed in these tasks is historically much lower than the percentage of people who would much rather sit behind a desk.
The percentage has also been dropping as automation has increased. But to get to what this is all illustrating before we close this video, the needs that are met are mostly the physical, put food in your mouth, put a roof over your head, put clothes on your body, and prevent you from getting sick or injured permanently. That is, to the point that you die from it, sort of needs. These people have unmet needs, some of them in the form of companionship, but most of them in the forms of greater levels of fulfillment, achieving something with their lives. And that is, as many modern psychologists are coming to look at, even when people don't have their basic food and shelter needs met, actually an extremely basic thing that most human beings, if not all human beings, seek out and need.
The scary thing about it in this case is that many of them in this setting don't realize they have this need, don't know where the unfulfillment is coming from, and thus are more likely to take senseless risks outside of their work environment simply because they're not overtired from working all the time.
So, thanks for taking this look at the basic structure of what needs are and aren't met. We're going to go into detail on how people try to fulfill those needs with senseless risks, and what interesting characters might come out of those next time.